And the commentary for today's topic we will ask to give Andrii Dlyhach, CEO of the Advanter Group consulting company. Greetings, Mr. Dlyhach.
Hello.
Hello and welcome to our studio. What I would like to ask you at first is the crumbling ruble and the Gazprombank under United States sanctions. We have seen many packages of sanctions against Russian oil industry, or gas, and military industry, which were not seem to work that much. But this one particular, it seems really painful for the most large Russian foreign currency bank. What will continue? Even some European companies and European governments insist on releasing sanctions on this bank.
Unfortunately, as we can see, these sanctions still are not killing ones. Starting with this full-scale invasion, we jointly with 600 of economists around the world prepared the list of necessary sanctions in order to stop Russia. Unfortunately, only 70% of these sanctions list were realized. But as we see, trade embargo, real financial sanctions, sanctions on banking system, personal sanctions with exit strategy are not realized yet. In fact, sanctions against Gazprombank was a crucial issue even 2 years ago. It could give us possibility to stop funding this war. At least 1/3 part of the Russian budget, which is oriented on gas and oil, could be stopped. Some sanctions are now very effective, but some of them are not so effective, and Russia found a way how to have another flow through such countries as Vietnam or United Arab Emirates or even Georgia. But we consider that anyways, the current package of sanctions could be effective.
Yes, and what do you think about some European companies and even governments asking the United States to release the sanctions on this bank because they want to continue buying Russian fuels?
Unfortunately, it's realpolitik, and we should take into account. But of course, the numbers are very prominent. $20 billion was paid as taxes in Russian Federation, as the taxes from international companies in this market. Our analysis have shown that the Russian budget, $180 billion for the next year, and the additional 100 of secret budget in Russia is 5 times more than Ukrainian budget for the defense. In addition to this, Russia is buying armors and weapons from Northern Korea 5 to 10 times cheaper than Ukraine buys from European countries or from US. This means that in order to have the equal situation, Ukraine should have 3 to 5 times bigger budget for the defense. But in fact, we have the opposite situation. So it's a crucial issue for the Western world to stop Russia using economic instruments like sanctions on the level of trade embargo, level of financial sanctions. And I'd like to add that it's very important to add personal sanctions with exit strategy, to let thousands of Russian oligarchs, businessmen, power authorities, regional politicians to stop this war by stopping of Putin's support inside of Russia.
And what about the possibility of European joint European security mission in Ukraine to safeguard the possible truce line. We have heard these discussions after the Gazprombank sanctions and after Zelensky and Trump met in Paris, and I really don't think that Mr. Putin will agree to such a mission in Ukraine. He wants to conquer all Ukraine after all.
You see, I believe that it could be a temporary option for the peace, but not for a stable peace, but not for a strategic peace in Europe. The problem is that Ukrainian interests are the following. Ukraine should exist, Ukraine should develop, Ukraine should be a part of NATO and European Union. But the Putin's and Russian interests concerning Ukraine is that Ukraine should be a failed state. Ukraine shouldn't exist at all. So we do not have a compromise. So any scenarios like a temporary peace or even European forces on the territory of Ukraine, it's just it's not a strategic solution. The only strategic way to have a peace in Europe is deconstruction of Russia, to demilitarize Russia completely, to denazify Russia, to change the rules in this country, to democratize Russia.
Well, what we're seeing now in Syria, the fall of the regime, a simple the departure of the leader or just cessation of its existence will lead to a power vacuum, and then some other forces, democratic or non-democratic, will have a chance to take the lead and change something. Do you even hope for that a change in power can happen in Russia and they will stop this disastrous and suicidal war against Ukraine?
Great idea, and we are working on it since 2022, helping regional elites, real elites, political elites of the Russian regions to be prepared for the deconstruction of Russian Federation strategy. And I'd like to say that despite we do not have full support from European Union or United States, but this strategy could be fruitful in the future. We hope that new administration in the US will accept this idea and will help national elites in Russia to have strong, democratic, developed countries on the territory of Russia in the future.
Okay, so let's return to the question of economy, because right now there is stagflation in this huge war machine that Putin has launched. I mean, all the armor and equipment produced with millions of jobs is going straight to Ukraine, probably to be destroyed or to stand and occupy Ukrainian territory. And the ruble is skyrocketing with the course to the dollar, and the basic rates of interest rates of the central bank, they are all rising. It's similar to the 80s, 90s in the Soviet Union. Do you see that the inner collapse of economy, not the outer sanctions, can do more harm to Russia than anything else?
It's a very interesting situation, because from one hand, we see that Russia cannot manage this stagflation process even more. We will have in Russia negative economic growth next year, and even now more than 3/4 part of Russian industries are now in stagnation process. They are decreasing. So Russian economy is really in troubles now. The same for inflation. Real inflation is not 9% as Central Bank of Russia consider, but in reality it's more than 25%, 0.5 per week. In addition to this, Russia cannot borrow money on the global market, even China, so their lack of funding. They cannot fund their budget deficit by their own resources. The last fund of National Wealth Fund can cover only this year deficit, but for next year they will not manage to cover this deficit. Despite of this, they increase war budget dramatically. There will be lack of new incomes from oil and gas next year, so they will not be able to fund this war in dollars, but in rubles. Unfortunately, it's the opposite side of this story. Second part, that in rubles, in printed by the central bank, maybe with the next authorities, because I'm not sure that current authorities in the National and Central Bank of Russia will keep their position in next year. So Russia can print as much rubles as they need to pay soldiers or their families after their soldiers' death, to have more and more meat for this war. And unfortunately, Russia do not consider humans as the real capital. It's just resources which can be used for this war. And we see that unfortunately, this strategy is more or less effective for Russia, and Russia now cover more and more Ukrainian territory by their soldiers' attacks without additional technique, without without planes, without drones. Even they have lack of drones on the front line. But despite of these, they are effective, and this is a real problem. We need to stop Russia on the front line. Ukraine needs more weapon, more technologies in order to be stronger in this strategic defense.
Well, I hope that's true, that stopping Russia on the front line will lead to a clash in the inside economy, and the war will finally end. Thank you very much, Mr. Dlyhach, for being with us today. We have right now to say goodbye and hope to see you again in our studio. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, that was all for today. Like, share and subscribe to our channel to support the news of the free world, which are delivered to you directly from Ukraine. On Sunday, you will see my colleague Henry Keane presenting the weekly episode to you. Stay safe and don't let propaganda win.